What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Devy YouTube channel. Today, we're going to be talking about 2026 quarterbacks. So we've kind of done this series throughout the last couple months, looking at every class and every position outside of tight ends a little bit, just because no one cares about tight ends. But we're going through quarterbacks, we're going through the running backs and wide receivers, and now we're on the 2026 class. So we're going to be looking at you guys like Arch Manning, Malachi Nelson. We're going to be going through them. So what I'll be doing is going through everybody's strengths, weaknesses. We're going to be watching tape on this one as well. So we're going to be looking at tape, looking at where their strengths are and what we can project moving forward, because quarterbacks are the toughest position to talk about in terms of, like, if you play college fantasy or just if you're a fan of these teams, what is this guy that you got on your roster going into spring games and, spring practices? What does he look like? So you know the deal. Hit that like and subscribe button while the intro is going, and then we'll dive right into it. All right, let's get into it. Guy Arch Manning on the cover there. Let's go through our number one. So number one is Jackson Arnold. So when we're talking about Jackson Arnold and what he did last year as a senior, 228, 331, 68% completion percentage, 3,000 yards passing, 33 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. And he also has that rushing upside that you see on the screen, 855 yards and 23 touchdowns. And to us, we did a video back, 4 months ago, me and Christian on our Patreon that you can join. And we talked about Jackson being kind of our quarterback one. This kid flat out was really good. It popped off the tape. And now consensus has actually brought us back around to this. Like, people are talking about Jackson Arnold being that guy. And so it's something to notice, right? He's going to Oklahoma. He's the number 4 quarterback on 247 Sports. But here at the Devy, we have him as our number 1 guy. When you're looking overall what he does well, so when we're talking about just him as a prospect, you're going to see arm strength when we watch the film here in a second. You're going to see velocity and quick releases. Like, he does a really good job getting the ball out very fast. He can throw it to every window, like when you're talking about where he needs to go with the ball as far as arm strength goes. And then, I think he has pretty good pocket awareness, and he knows when to run, when to take off. He does have some rushing upside, right? So when we're talking about, like, hey, can he be a runner? Yes, he can be at the college level. I don't know very much if we're going to project that at the NFL level, like if he's going to get there. But as a college runner, yeah, he's there. Things to work on, weaknesses, deep ball accuracy. I think that's the thing that highlights the most. Like, he's pretty good, like, at every level. He's got to improve that a little bit. And that's going to come. Like, that's something that works, that we talk about all the time in here on this channel, but also in general. Like, these guys are young. They're going to learn how to get kind of, more, better at kind of getting the ball across the middle of the field, deep, knowing where the angles are and those type of things. Like, that's where coaching comes into play. And I would say strength as well. Like, those two things, he's going to get put on some weight when you're looking at him. Like, he's fine. I think strength will come with that deep ball accuracy, and that's what it'll look like. But we're going to take a look at a little bit of his highlights. He has a pretty good functional awareness, right? So he gets out of the pocket, able to find his guy, and he has a very effortless throw. Like, the thing with Jackson that I love the most is just his effortless. Like, he just gets it to the sideline on the deep ball there. You'll see it there. Again, a lot of RPO actions, and that'll look really good. He's going to fit really well in Oklahoma's offense, so you got to love that about him. This is his rushing upside, and again, he was pretty good throughout, right? So when you're seeing his ability to kind of run and take that next step in this offense, that's something that you should really like. Also, the thing to note too is, like, he didn't have a ton of interceptions in high school. Like, he does a very good job of, like, making the right reads. Kind of, he had a ton of throws. It highlights on 247 talks about how he had 445 attempts, only 5 interceptions. And that's legitimate. Like, he knows when to get the ball out. It doesn't make a lot of, mistakes that way. Gets it to his playmakers on the outside. So you'll see it there. Has the accuracy to do so as well. And then he has some functional athleticism to get outside the pocket and make defenses, put a little bit of pressure on defenses. Like, I think he's going to a perfect situation when we think of, like, Oklahoma and their offense. I think he's going to sit behind Dylan for a little bit, Gabriel that's there, but he could realistically kind of middle of the season, if they're not having the season they want, maybe he kind of comes in there. You're going to find with all these quarterbacks in 26 class, some of them are going to be sitting behind guys. And so that's something also to note when we're going into them and when we're looking at them. But that's Jackson Arnold. Now, here's our quarterback 2. So that's Malachi Nelson going to USC. And you know what? Any quarterback going to USC, we're just going to put on the top 5 list. We have to, right? Now, Malachi looked really good. We're going to obviously watch his tape. This last year, you'll see it: 35 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, really good completion percentage in terms of what he was able to do. 192, 286 attempts. No rushing upside here. But he's going to any quarterback on the Lincoln Riley's offense, you have to highlight, right? You got to talk about, like, he's going to a good spot, going to sit behind Caleb for a year. And I think that's just a red shirt, learning the system, learning what he needs to do. But if asked, he might be able to step in there and spot start. Caleb kind of got banged up a little bit at the end of the year. He's got the talent. I do think he needs to develop. We're going to talk about kind of his weaknesses there. But overall, like, you really have to like what he has. Now, I would say out of everybody, Nelson's got elite arm strength. Like, when you're watching his tape and his ability to kind of get the ball out, it's elite. He could go anywhere with it. Like, and he knows it too. So we're going to talk about kind of weaknesses, but he knows it. He's going to a great system that's going to highlight his strengths. Like, any quarterback in Lincoln Riley's system, they're going to highlight you, right? Like, you don't have to be concerned with that. Off-platform throws are very good. Gets out of the pocket, able to kind of make defenses struggle, just containing him. And then at the same time, he's always looking to push the ball down the field. So he really puts a lot of pressure on defenses because of the talent he is as a thrower. Like, that's something that kind of separates himself from some of these other guys. Weaknesses, he's got to put some weight on. He's too skinny. He's going to get some weight put on him. Lack of rushing. He's not a rusher, right? So when we think of him, like, he's not going to have that ability, that thing in his bag in terms of, like, production on the ground. Decision making too. Like, and I think the decision making, they highlight this a little bit when they're talking about him throughout, is that he makes some bad throws. And it's not that he makes bad throws like they're not on target. It's that he trusts his arm to throw into triple coverage. He trusts his arm to throw, hey, that's double covered. There's a tight spot. I'm going to get it there. And that's not necessarily always a bad thing, right? So when we're thinking of, like, hey, we like them, that he's going to go up there and go get it. But there's some times where you're like, oh, I wish you would maybe pull that down, make a different read and check down. And that's why I love that he's going to Lincoln Riley's offense, because Lincoln Riley's going to make him do that, right? Those are the things that you like to see. Now, you watch his tape. This is where I'm talking about with that functional athleticism. Gets it outside the pocket, able to break it down, go through it. Again, you're going to see him here. Like, his ability to do this and then have the arm to do it. That's a grown-ass man throw right there. Like, his ability to get to the outside and toss that on the run is legitimate, just NFL arm, right? Again, on the outside here. These are the things that Trojan fans, you guys should be super, super excited about, because he's going to elevate that offense too. Like, you're going to go from Caleb to him, and that's amazing. That's just a wealth of riches there down there in LA, right? Again, you'll see it here, and I love watching huddle tape just because, but you see his arm. Look at that arm on the money. And the other thing too I wanted to highlight with Nelson is, like, there's never a time where his receiver has to stop. It always seems like he's always in unison, knows where he's got to get the ball to. That's a perfect throw in the corner of the end zone. Like, there's nothing about his tape that's like, oh, his receiver's got to stop. His receiver has to, like, hey, come back for it. Everything is on the money. Everything is a perfect in-stride throw, and that highlights his arm strength. And, like, that's something to know about him. And he's able to get it out quick. And then if you think about the weapons he's going to play with, Mekhi Lemon again, Zachariah Branch, as throughout his career, you have to love that. Like, there is not, like, to me, Malachi is one of those fun guys that you're going to be able to plug in your lineups if you're playing college fantasy, or if you're just going to watch him. Like, Caleb's great. Caleb's probably going to be QB1 of the next year's class, 24 class. We've talked about him. Malachi is going to be right there next year. And I think USC is going to be okay going to the Big Ten and competing with him. Like, he's the type of special player that you have. You have to like that, have to show some rushing stuff. He does not, he has it. We're going to stop after this throw. But again, just makes things happen. He's just a playmaker. That's what Malachi really is. Now let's look at our QB3, Dante Moore. Dante Moore is the most complete quarterback of this class. He started every game since he was a freshman. So when you going through all his stuff, he's just improved. His senior stats there, 32 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 2,300 yards. Like, everything about Dante just is cool, calm, collective, just a very polished quarterback, right? So when we're thinking of him as a prospect, now he had some recruiting things. He was going to go to Oregon or Michigan, maybe. Then we're going to Oregon. Now he's going to UCLA. I like the fit. He's the only one of these top 5 that has a legitimate chance to start game 1 of the season, right? So when we're looking at that, that's something to know. Now, his strengths, the reason why he might be able to start that early is his experience. Like, he's played a long time. Every single year he has gotten better, right? As a freshman, he led him to 11-3 record and a state runner-up. as a freshman, right? Then, hey, as a sophomore, again, got it there. Third, and in his junior year, he won the state championship. And that's something to show you. Then his senior year, he won another state championship. So experience, he's got really good decision making. And when you watch that, so I watched all his seasons because I love this shit. I went through all of his stuff and went through all of his tape, and we were looking at, okay, how is his progression from his freshman to senior year? Man, it got so much better. Like his ability to make the right decisions, get the ball out quick, his awareness of where the defense is at, his pre-check reads, like he does that all. Like you love that about Dante. And that's something that really stood out to me when I watched it. All I put on my notes when I first did this 4 months ago and I was breaking these guys down was complete. He's a complete quarterback. And you have to love that if you're a UCLA fan. Weaknesses, I think the question mark is like, does he have the ceiling these other guys have? Because this is what he's been for so long. Like, is this his ceiling? Which his ceiling is still pretty damn good, back-to-back state titles. But can Kelly there do a better job, do a better job of like developing him as a quarterback where he's an NFL prospect, right? That's what you're looking for. I think athleticism-wise, he's not a terrible athlete, but he's not an amazing athlete, right? So like it's not going to pop off the tape of like that athleticism. And there's a QB battle there right now. So at UCLA, they do have a QB battle. And here's the thing with the QB battle is like the other guys on this list that we've talked about, like Jackson, Arnold, and Malachi, they know they're next, right? Like, hey, after the incumbent leaves, I'm going to start, like, unless barring something crazy happening. Whereas, we don't know that with Dante. Like, who knows what that's going to look like? You have, Ethan Garbers is there, Colin Schlee transfer, and then we have Justin Martin out there as well. So if he loses this job and it's really bad loss, now we're talking about like, when does he start? So I think those are things that should worry you a little bit about Dante, but those are just kind of going over like, hey, where is that at? You'll see it here. His ability he just makes good throws. Like there's not a lot of mistakes on his profile. Like there's not. Like I love that about him. He knows where the ball to go to. And again, I just want to highlight his ability to make pre-snap reads is really good for a kid his age, right? Like those are the things that you love about him. This throw across his body is an amazing throw. Like those are the throws that like, oh, okay, that's Dante Moore. He's a top 5 quarterback of this class, right? Like, so those are the things that you like to see about him and kind of his progression as a quarterback. You really like to see that. Those are the things that really highlighted for me. Again, you get here, steps up into the pocket. It's got good functional athleticism, gets the ball across his body, and that's a rope. Like that's a college football throw, right? So those are the big boy throws that you like to see there. Makes good decisions, does a little bit of RPO work, so you're gonna like that. Like obviously that's what the college football is going to, especially. So he does that as well. Again, here this is one of those throws he just gets absolutely just demolished. So I just want you guys to see that just so we can go back and watch it because I've watched this throw like 100,000 times. Sets up in the pocket, is just going to get crushed right there. Just gets crushed. Able to still get the ball off to his receiver for a completion, right? Like that's legitimate, right? That's like, hey, has pressure, knows he's going to get hit, still able to deliver the ball on a dime. Like those are the things that Dante does really well for himself as a quarterback. So we're going to watch one more throw for you guys, just kind of break down what you see here. But that's Dante Moore. And if you're a UCLA fan, you should be really excited about his ability to get outside the pocket, his maturity. He could step right in there and maybe be a day one starter. Now, fourth guy here is Nico. Nico's going to Tennessee, and when you're looking at Nico overall, like he was the guy that made all this noise about, when we were talking about NIL, all the numbers getting thrown out there. But Nico's just a solid quarterback, man. He might have the highest ceiling of everybody on this list, 6'6", 200. If you were going to build a Tennessee Volunteer quarterback, you would build Nico. Like he fits the offense perfectly. He's going to be that kid, right? And when you're looking at him, like he's gone from like QB2 of the 247 class, and I know on 3, I think I have him as quarterback 1. So he's definitely higher up there, right? So when you look at his strengths, he's got a ton of upside. Amazing offense. Like this is probably the best offense under Josh Heupel there is, quarterback that he's played with. I mean, and his coach, Hendon Hooker, like all those guys that have been there. Like Nico's really good for that upside. He has that. Good arm strength, athleticism. He's a freaking, great volleyball player. Leadership. They talk about him just being a leader on the team. Like he checks all those intangible boxes. He checks the arm strength box, the upside box. The weaknesses thing kind of connects. It's the timing and anticipation. Didn't play with the greatest athletes at Warren. They were good though. Like, don't get me wrong. But when you're looking at just overall, like even at Long Beach Poly when he played there, like not the greatest things in the world when you're talking about athlete, but he definitely elevated his people. So one thing that you saw is he elevated the talent around him. So like that's something to notice. But the timing anticipation thing, he's going to probably get better at when he has better athletes, when he knows it. And in Tennessee has that perfectly, right? We know Tennessee has that timing anticipation, those type of things. So that's a legitimate like offense to go to. So it should get worked on pretty easily. And it's size. I know he's listed at 200, but he was a smaller prospect when we were thinking of like 247 Sports and where he was at. Probably put a little bit more strength on, but he's an early enrollee. And we love early enrollees because they're there. He's been there since the bowl game. So you love to see that. Again, you see his size, his stature, able to get the ball out quick. Now, I did a bigger profile on him on the channel. So if you really want to dive into like everything about Nico, most of these guys I've already done. Go check those out. But again, gets the ball out quick, really fits. Like his high school offenses really fit what Tennessee does, right? Like it's not perfect match, but it's pretty close. And now he's going to get a lot of things, guys. I think a guy that you have to know, Dante Thornton, transfer from Oregon going to Tennessee. I think he could have a big year this year with what they want. Again, gets it out quick, gets it to the sideline. He has good arm strength. You'll see it here, able to get the guy on the run. Like that's a perfect ball. And those are things when you're thinking about Tennessee, we watched Jalen Hyatt do it. We've watched Tillman do it. We watched those guys do it. Now, next year and the year after, you're going to see this. He's in a kind of a battle. Joe Milton, quarterback, former Michigan guy, transferred there. And I don't know if he's going to start right away, but he definitely gives the highest upside in the ceiling for this guy. So when you're thinking of like, hey, who gives the highest ceiling here? It's definitely Nico. So, and again, arm strength, velocity, release. He hits all those boxes, right? So those are the things that you like to see about Nico. Get to the outside. Definitely want to show you this throw again. But again, knows where the defenses are. He's going to have to elevate his game a little bit to that SEC play. That's something to note too. So that's good. He's going to sit behind for a little while. But Hubel does a great job of protecting him. Like they're going to protect him and they're going to go through there and go through his progressions there. But again, love his velocity, love his release, love his arm strength. The Volunteers got a great one. And he has a chance to really be that guy that separates it, that they're going to compete, right? When we're thinking Texas, Oklahoma coming, like they could compete for SEC title with this kid, and he could be that special. So just want to show you that one real quick, and then we'll get to our guy. Now, last guy here, Arch Manning. He's our 5. And the only reason why he's at 5 right now, for all, don't hate me, Texas fans, it's just that I think he needs to develop some. Like, I don't necessarily think that he's ready to go right away. I know that they talked about Sark has been there. That's a QB battle. Nothing's up in the air yet between him and Quinn Ewers. But to me, I feel like they picked Texas as that like spot, like where, hey, we know he's going to develop. He has good numbers, 2,200 yards, 34 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, but nothing really stood out when you're watching the tape. Like, I think he looks good against some of the opponents that he played, but when he played against, playoff teams and stuff like that, he struggled. Like, and there was a lot of struggle. If you go watch his last high school game, he really did struggle there. So the thing is, like, for me, strengths, pedigree. Pedigree is a real thing. He's a Manning. Like, that's a real strength. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I think when you're thinking of those things, your helmet scout, whatever you want to call it, I think that's a real thing. He's got good velocity. He's got good touch. So he gets it all quick, and he knows how to layer his passes at every level. Weaknesses, I think he struggled with competition a little bit. I think he's not an athlete. Like, he's okay, but he's a Manning. So let's be honest. Like, I think he's got adequate mobility, but he's not definitely like not a guy, right? Like when we're thinking of like athleticism perspective, he's not going to be there. And I think his mechanics, I think the one reason why I struggle with Arch when I watch his tape is I really feel like pressure ruins him. Like as his mechanics break down a little bit, it could be, hey, could be this offensive line play. It could be like, hey, didn't have the weapons. And at Texas, he's going to have that, right? So when we think of Arch and what he's going to have, like he's going in with one of the best offensive lines in the country, right? They got the Hog NIL going on over there. And they know that. They didn't play, like he has some of the best weapons coming. Like I love Dante Cook and all these other guys that are coming there. Xavier Worthy, if he does get to play this year, Jatavian Sanders is there. If he stays there, Cedric Baxter is going to be really good for them. Isaiah Neor is coming back. Like, so when you're thinking of weapons, he's got all that. I think just with him, it's like, hey, when he struggles under pressure a little bit in the pocket, I think his mechanics are well. Like he can get to the outside. He's got okay functional athleticism. You'll see here when it breaks down. But I do think that unlike Dante Moore and some of these guys that are kind of have that experience already, I think there are times where he does when you watch his tape, the pressure gets to him a little bit. And when he stays in the pocket, he definitely has bad throws. But then you see this throw and you're like, damn, that's a Division I throw, top 5 guy, right? So like, he's going to have these, like gets out the outside, crosses his body. It wasn't able to get fully extended there, still made a dart to the back of the end zone, right? So those are the things that you really like about Arch. But I will say there are some other stuff, right? So there's some other stuff here. Now, this is where he can layer those passes, gets it to the end zone. Like you like that. Like, and I like to highlight these throws because you see him, hey, he knows where he's going. layers the pass in between the safety and the corner. Very good throw. Like, and I think that's one thing he's going to really definitely have for him is like his ability to layer those throws, just like his family, right? This is something that we think of. That's the pedigree model of it. Gets the ball quick, gets it there. And I think it just comes down to Sark. Like, can Sark develop these guys? Like, he's struggled at quarterback position. So let's be real. Like, what does Quinn look like? How is Arch kind of developed? And what does that look like? Could Arch be in the portal after this year? Like, there's a lot of question marks about Arch. I think that he still can be good. But I think that right now, I think it's okay to have him at 5. And in terms of fantasy, if you're playing Devy and those type of things, I think he's getting overdrafted right now. Like, I would not be comfortable drafting him in the first round. Maybe later, but with quarterbacks, I like to see what they have. Now, just some guys that should be on your radar. Jaden Rashada going to Arizona State. Austin Novosad, I did a breakdown of him. Go check him out. Kenny Minchie, Notre Dame. Interesting prospect. Avery Johnson. They're in the midst of a quarterback battle as well right now at Kansas State. Eli Holstein going to Alabama, and then Aiden Childs, for going to Oregon State, playing against DJU in that quarterback battle. He's someone to know, like, hey, he could really step up. They talked about him. Like, I think they comped him to just the dual threat kid that can go pick off these things. Like, he looks really good in terms of what his ceiling could be. I know he had an offer from Washington, Kansas State, all these places, and he chose Oregon State, and Oregon State's kind of coming up a little bit. You want to see them maybe get more talented receivers out there, but Aiden could be that kid that comes in after DJU and maybe pushes DJU this year to really start. And I also want to highlight, didn't put him on the graphic, his name is CJ Tiller. He's going to Boise State. He's one of my favorite deep guys. So if you're in a deep college or just, hey, if you're a Boise State fan, CJ Tiller is really good. I know they have Green and those other guys there, but CJ is one of my guys that I just want to highlight. So I appreciate you guys. As always, hit that like and subscribe button. Go check out the Patreon. Let us know. Appreciate you guys there. If you play fantasy or anything like that, or just love college football, we're in there all day talking. It's really cheap. Go check it out. Until next time, I'll see you guys later.